and welcome to 4,000 and Counting, brought to you by Hurricane e-bikes. I'm Watty. Today I am joined by one of our highest ever listened to guests, Mr. David Sims himself. Simsy, welcome back to 4,000 and Counting. How have you been, my friend?
One of who got more?
Our very first episode when Bandy basically came on and was like, if you haven't fucking heard of me, Google me. I thought we were done after the first line of 4,000 Counting. Mr. Michael Wales, actually. Muzzy's right up there, very popular boy, popular with all the fellas.
Well, let's see what we can do today to increase the audience.
Let's do it. So the Elite League has just wrapped up. Belfast Giants, fantastic season for them. They finished with a treble. Kind of probably I would be imagine disappointed for you guys in Sheffield not to pick up any silverware this year. What's the feeling now the dust settled a few weeks into the off season?
Exactly as you said, very disappointed that we didn't pick up any silverware. You don't have a divine right, and we've done very well in the past, but we haven't done it very well in the immediate, just the last couple of years. And when Aaron joined us, there was a big gap between ourselves, Cardiff, and Belfast, and we'd finished 7th. Paul had left us halfway through the year. Then the Barrasso experiment didn't work. So Aaron, if you like, had that experiment. We had that job to close the gap. We won the Challenge Cup his first year, then COVID struck. And in the last couple of years, we've been there and then just faded at the end. So we rebuild again now. The work has started. We all meet. I don't know when this will air, but we all meet on Wednesday for a big club powwow. Aaron's been away. We've signed a couple of guys we're yet to announce. So we go again. It doesn't stop. I mean, when I first started, you did it for 30 weeks, you had 15 weeks off, and then you had 6 weeks building up, and then off you went. But now it doesn't stop. It's 24/7 every day.
Talking of signings, you've just re-signed your goalie, which for me is probably the signing of the off-season so far that anybody in the Elite League done. What a bit of business that is. How good was he for someone who, well, the word on the street is he wasn't supposed to be the starter, and he's come in and played 53 games and was absolutely lights out.
Lights out. And you know what? Top bloke as well. And almost like a normal bloke, which for goalies...
Not like a goalie, no.
Not normal. And you're right, he came in to share the duties. I mean, Oscar Ostlund was actually signed very early last summer. We didn't announce him till a lot later, but he was signed early. Super fella. And then played a couple of exhibitions. They split the exhibition games. And then our very first league game on the Saturday morning, home to Cardiff, he's in the stretch room, does some star jumps, catches his thumb in the pocket of his trouser, breaks. Yeah. And as innocuous as that, he was supposed to start that night and never played a game for us from that day onwards.
Something that we wouldn't normally ask on there because I never really get the chance, but you're behind the scenes and you see the comings and goings. Obviously, in the National League, we saw like injuries to Ross Bowers where he lost his eye, and other injuries. Aidan Doughty broke his back, and like there's been some legit injuries over the years.
Injuries,
What happens insurance wise? Obviously, he's due. He's got a year's contract. He signed with the Steelers. He's due to then line him up and play.
2 different types of insurance.
Oh, okay.
There's medical insurance. So, like, for example, if a guy broke his back, he'd be completely looked after.
Yeah.
Salary insurance.
Yeah.
When I started, we used to pay a fortune for salary insurance. I don't think any club would have salary insurance now. They'd self-insure. So Oscar was paid all the way through.
Oh, fantastic.
Mason Mitchell got injured, paid all the way through. Sebastian Piche injured, paid all the way through. So nobody misses a penny in pay. And that's not just us. That'd be any one of the 10 teams.
Oh, that's really good.
That's anyone. It's not good of us. It's
right. Yes.
Because you wouldn't sign another player if you didn't do that. So yes, the salaries would be self-insured. Some clubs might have some insurance that helps them, but I'll tell you, you could have like 3 or 4 players down for the whole year for the cost of what the premium would be. Terrific. But as far as like getting fixed up, we're all covered for that. And so, for example, Piche gets injured, goes and gets scans, goes and gets repaired. Mitchell exactly the same. Oscar exactly the same. And of course, now a lot of us have full-time medical teams. Yeah. So we have a full-time strength and conditioning coach, and we have a full-time physio. We have a doctor on call 24/7.
Do you want to shout those guys out? Who's the strength and conditioning coach after Sheffield now?
You remember the lad we used to have, Danny Moyer?
It's his brother, isn't it?
Mike. Yeah, Big Mike.
Yeah, perfect.
Big Mike. Yeah, you don't want to mess with Big Mike. Alfie came from Coventry. We experimented with a couple of different ways of doing physio, and then we just decided that it would be the best way to go full time. And Alfie had been working with Nicky at Coventry.
Brilliant.
And came up, and him and his girl came up and work full time for us now. So our backroom staff is terrific. And then, of course, led by Andy Akers, who has been there since day one, who's the best equipment guy by a country mile in the world. I mean, he's the one person in our league that should be in the NHL.
Oh, yeah?
If anybody says to me, do you think anybody could ever
who should be in the show?
I go, yeah, that ginger-haired bloke there who's sewing up a glove or who's repairing a skate. There's nothing he can't fix, nothing he can't do. And he 100% should be in the NHL.
So this is something else that the fans probably won't know, but are all these people then salaried? So your equipment manager and people like that? Because obviously in my day in the EPL...
52 weeks a year.
We chucked them, the boys used to chuck them some dough, but it was very much for the love of the game. And I don't think you realise how much shit these boys and girls do until you're around it all the time.
30 to 40,000 steps a day Andy does in the arena.
Yep. What on a game? What about a game day practice? All of it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, every day. I mean, like he's a monster of a man, and you have to be. And as he gets older, you think to yourself, "Crikey, you're going to have to bring some young pup in." And of course, the young pups don't want to probably work as hard as Andy. Andy doesn't grind it. No, but no, they're all salaried. I mean, they're all full time. It's their job.
Is it a bit different with the players now? The with the equipment managers, are they a bit more like princessy than when you first came in? I imagine it was four cans of beer in the store after practice.
Yeah, no.
Sorry,
yeah, but some of them are. I mean, hey, I'm sure at Christmas Andy still gets an envelope, and I'm sure at the end of the year, the boys throw Andy some, a tip. I'm sure that still happens, and our boys look after Andy well. And when we have to go to, if we ever have to go to Sheffield, so for example, if we play on a Saturday at home, but then there's a show at the arena on a Sunday, we have to move all our gear on the Saturday night. We have to empty the arena, and our boys muck in. They're good lads, and they muck in, Mike and Alfie in particular. And then of course we have the two coaches. We have Aaron and Carter. So the off ice, Aaron, Carter, Andy, Mike, and Alfie. They're full 52 week of the year, full time PAYE paid. Yeah, they're proper employees.
Do you have any?
It's changed.
Yeah, it's changed.
It's changed. Yeah.
Do you have any full-time scouts or anything like that, or do you have anyone you're working with in Europe and North America that are maybe sending players or saying you should be having a look at this guy, that guy?
I think as a club, I'd have to say no, but I think every coach has his contacts, so we don't have a full-time. For example, when Tomo was coaching, I know a lot of the guys that were doing the juniors when we were looking for the next Liam Kirk to come through when we started the apprenticeship program. I think one of them recommended that young Tetlow who came and trained with us for a little bit, but then the apprenticeship thing never worked out for him. So I think it all depends a little bit on the coach. But I mean, Aaron I think I've got a lot of numbers in this thing. He's got a lot of numbers. He's connected. Every country, every league, every level, he knows people. And so if somebody's good coming through, we know about them, yeah. And we were at Sheffield last couple of days. We've been keeping an eye on the events at their draft tournaments there, and so we do keep an eye on everything that goes on. Yes.
What did you make of the tournament up there the weekend? Obviously, it's the first time it's been done since conference. They've changed it to showcase. What was the talent level like?
It was full. I mean, the place was
really
full. And I tell you, it was a bit of a who's who. Jason Stone was there. His kids. I saw Stevie Lyle for the first time in years. His kids. Of course, Jonathan Phillips, the night after his big night, he's there with his boys as well. And good luck to them. God bless them. And let's hope there's the next Jonathan Phillips in that bunch.
Well, we need him from somewhere.
That's right. No, they've got to come from somewhere. No,
don't make him like that anymore, though. I don't think, Simsy, if I'm dead honest.
He broke his wrist against Lithuania. But breaking a wrist is nothing to Jono. I mean, he had a chest problem. He had some ligament problems in his chest last year. Took a game off, which was unheard of for Jono. Had a
whole game.
Whole game, yeah. Then they thought they were sure it was ligament. And they're working, so they're giving everything they've got, pushing on his, they're trying to loosen everything up and whatever. And he goes in and he goes, I think I need another scan. This doesn't feel quite right. He's got 2 broken ribs and a broken sternum.
Yeah, that's it.
And they went, well, that's like 6 weeks off. And he goes, well, I've had 4 since the injury, so that's 2. I'll take this weekend off and then I'll be back. I mean, unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, you talk about, you come on podcasts and different things these days and they will go, oh, who's the best player you've ever seen? Who's the toughest guy you've ever seen? I'll tell you what, toughness isn't necessarily Dennis Vial, Mike Ware. Toughness can be Jonathan Phillips. And I'll tell you, I ain't met a tougher bloke than Jonathan Phillips in my life. He's and I've never met a finer human being. He's a first class, as you know.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
He's top. And
I'm excited for his next career for him. I was speaking to him about it in Nottingham, and you could feel in his energy and the way he's talking about it and getting to work with these kids. And for them, it's going to be fantastic. They get to work with a superstar athlete.
Well, John only knows one way. He only knows one way, and that's 100%. And it doesn't matter whether he's putting the bins out, he does it 100% right, or he's playing hockey, he does it 100% right. I wasn't very well on the night of the big game. I watched the first 2 periods at home, and then I went up to bed and put it on. And then when they presented him with the ring at the end, and they said Andy Buxton it says, oh, you better take a look up on the screen, and you could see Jono's lip going. And I got to be honest, I went. I think many people across the country probably did at the exact same time. I saw him on Saturday. I said, "You bastard!" I said, "As soon as he went, I went with you." And he was, "Oh my god!" He said it was a bit emotional and terrific. The send off he had in Sheffield was amazing.
It was.
Tony and the club was brilliant to him, and the fans all waited. And it's been what a career that lad has had. I think
he was still signing autographs outside the arena until Tuesday, wasn't he?
Oh, it was lunacy. And like he got his card, we tried to make it as big and as good as it possibly could, and we found a number plate that had got his initials, 20 GB, everything just fitted perfectly. And it's not just him, like his mum lives up, she's come from Cardiff.
Oh really?
Yeah, I've got the whole family have come up. Kirsty's wife is a lovely woman. His kids are great, his mum's up here. Her parents have come up as well.
Okay.
I mean, like Arthur Wales has decided to come up. I think we've lost 6 season tickets with him retiring.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
I tell you what, when I was walking around Sheffield on Saturday, I did think to myself, Ice Hockey UK, English Ice Hockey Association, whoever. Why are we letting Jonathan Phillips walk into school, into education? Why are we doing that? Why is our governing body not going, not a chance of you doing that? You're going to be in charge. You're going to drive around. You're going to go to, Grimsby one day. You're going to go to Basingstoke the next day. You're going to go wherever. You're going to go and give your influence to all these junior clubs, all these clubs. You're going to try and develop something. Why? Because it wouldn't cost a lot of money.
They can only see to hear, Simsy. They can only see to hear. They can't see the wood for the trees. They're never looking over there.
They can say that. I don't think they can say that far. I mean, we all talk about it, don't we? We all sit in the bath and we all think if our 6 numbers came up, what we do and whatever. And that's why I give Danny Myers a ton of credit. I saw Danny on Saturday as well. We all talk about it, but Danny, and I know Danny can split opinions. I like Danny. I'll put my card on the table. I like him. He's a top laddie. But he went and put his house on the line, his parents on the line, everything on the line, because he thought this was the way to do it. And heaven forbid anybody stands in his way now, he's going to run them over, and rightly so. Because every morning when he goes to work, he looks at his own house, he looks at his folks' house, and he thinks, this has to work. Yeah. And it's that focus of the mind, and I give him credit for that, and all power to him, because top bloke.
He's got a good team down there with Lockie and Fordy and the other guys. It's honestly, Cindy, it's exactly what this country needs. I know Danny's potentially going to get a second venue, which I imagine then leads to a third. And if we can get these dotted around the UK, 10, 15 of them in the next 10 or 15 years, if you put someone like Danny in that facility, so if it's up your neck of the woods, it's Jono or Huey or whoever it is, you're putting these like GB legends almost.
Do you mean like actually putting somebody with hockey experience into a hockey?
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Yeah,
it's a strange thought, isn't it? You don't think any of the associations would have thought of that?
Well, this is the thing that I'm always bemused by, and I don't understand. You look at all these top brasses in both organizations; they haven't got a fucking game between them. They've not really been involved to any sort of real degree of whether it be Elite League, EPL, National League, BNL, whatever, any of the leagues that we've had, Super League, GB, they've never really been in amongst it, but they're there to hand out the medals and the handshakes and,
or as I saw on one of your videos, I didn't quite understand it, but as I saw on one of your videos, not hand out the medals on that.
Oh my God, how bad is that? Simsy, how bad have you ever seen, like, poor guys, they've just lost and they've had to skate up, fucking shake hands with somebody and then get their picture taken with nothing. I felt like Solent aren't my favorite club, but that doesn't matter. I felt disrespected on their behalf. Like, I was like, how are you doing that to those lads? They've just knocked their pan in for a whole season.
Just bad manners.
Terrible manners.
Just bad manners.
But it's okay. Their medals got stuck at customs. It's fine.
Then do something.
I was like, well, get some other ones. Yeah. Give them something. Don't just leave them stood there. It was poor, and it's just not. It's not just the medals. Like, we don't give a shit about getting a second place medal. Don't make us look stupid. And if you're trying to make this game professional and you're trying to make it good for the viewer, you're charging for streams, you're doing all these things, then just at the very, very least, treat the lads with some respect.
Yeah. No, agree.
And God knows what it's like in the women's, if that's what the men's is like. God knows what they're like in the women's hockey.
Yeah.
No. Because, there'll be an afterthought.
Yeah, well, there were some girls playing Saturday or so, and they were flying around.
Yeah, we've got some good young kids out there.
There was one lad, and I can't remember his name. He wore 7. He played for Team Phillips. He was a little kid. I think he came out of Chelmsford, somebody told me. Holy Jesus.
Got a bit about him?
Oh, got a lot about him. He must have scored 4 in 5 minutes that I saw him play. And they're all different. Shot top shelf, dances everybody. Yeah, so obviously he's a budding young lad at his age group, and hopefully that develops, because it's only when they go up the age groups and they start meeting people at their own levels that they find out whether they've really got it or not.
And that's why these events are crucial, so we're getting these best kids playing against each other.
But I went up to Newcastle, where it must be 6, 7, 8 years ago, and they were talking about an under-20s league whereby, say, for example, Sheffield and Nottingham and Coventry, we got together. So our best under-20s playing out of those 3 facilities. That's one team. And then maybe down Cardiff, Guildford, whatever team, and Scotland. And it might have only been 4 teams. But then once a month they met. So the best under-20s were playing.
Great idea.
It was a great idea. And the Ice Hockey UK chairman at the time, whose name escapes me, thought it was a good idea. And Paul Thompson and I went up to Newcastle to kind of pitch the idea, if you like. Scotland went, oh, no, too much travel. No, our kids, they train too much as it is. And then the English Association, oh, no, we're going to upset people. How do we pick it? And they were always looking for a reason for it.
How do you pick it? You pick the best fucking kids.
Well,
pick the best ones. That's what it's about.
Scotland was the one that amazed me, because Scotland was just, oh no, there's too much travel for our kids, and our kids play enough as it is. And you know what? They've got exams and they've got this and they've got that. Well, then they don't have to fucking go. They can be somebody else.
Right. That's a great point. There'll be there's a kid on that cusp right now who would be chopping your arm off to get that last spot on the team.
That's right. And then the elite clubs were going to look after the 4 clubs, and it was all going to kind of work around that way.
We'd love to see it, Simsy. I don't think we should be putting a pin in that idea. I think we should be rolling that back out to Clifton and the new chairman at the Ice Hockey UK.
I met him for the first time yesterday, actually. Seems, shook his hand, had 2 minutes with him, but obviously he's got his ideas and his people at the moment, so we'll see where he comes out with that.
What sort of relationship do the Elite League and Ice Hockey UK have? Obviously nothing to do with the EIHL, but what's the relationship between the league itself and Ice Hockey UK?
They communicate They communicate.
That's good.
It's not. It's. I mean, we don't agree on everything, and we come up with different angles from things. But no, Tony, Todd, and Steve Thornton and Tony are the ones that kind of do the talking, to the league. I know Todd was at a meeting with Clifton and several others 3 weeks ago, the week before the playoffs. I know Tony and Clifton have a communication between the two of them. So no, there is that there, and I'm sure there's a willingness on both sides to work together. We all want our independence, but we'll work together to try and do what we can do to needs doing.
Can you roll back to Jonathan Phillips real quick? Because there was a question I wanted to ask, and I don't really know how you answer it. How do you replace Jonathan Phillips?
Oh, you don't. You don't. No, he can't be replaced. You're just going to certainly not by one person. No, it'll be very interesting. And we've lost. We also lost Brendan Connolly.
Yes,
who was a guy who made people accountable and was what you and I would call old school. Yeah. So there's a couple of big holes there that have got to be filled. Poor old Cons got hurt the season before. And at 37, the rebuilding of the knee, we hoped it would all be well in August, September. And he played, but it probably took November, December for it to properly come back. And then at the end of the year, he was terrific, one of our better players. But as a human being, as an individual, it's funny, isn't it? You hear things about players at different clubs and different places. And when Aaron first mentioned Brendan Connolly to me, I thought, oh, they didn't like him in Belfast. I'd heard something in the past they didn't like him in Belfast. And I was told he was trouble. I was told he was a bit gobby. I was told he was. And I found Pete Russell and Zach Fitzgerald up, who'd had him in Brayard. Yep. And they went, he's brilliant. You'll love it. And they went, you'll love him. You'll love him. He's right up your street. And I remember walking into the dressing room first time I met him, and you kind of feeling it a little bit. What a top. In 31 years, there ain't been a better bloke walking our room than him. There's been some as good as him, but there ain't been a better bloke walking our room than him. Absolutely. Gave it every night, made people accountable. Just a top bloke. And I won't have a bad word said about him. He was terrific.
You touched on the fact that the Barrasso experiment didn't really work out. What was it like having him around the club? Because obviously nobody saw that move come in. He came out of left field. You guys brought him in. It didn't really go to plan. What was it like having him there?
Did you ever meet him?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't meet him.
You never miss much.
Oh, really?
It was different. Well, obviously, I remember pulling up Southern Road Ward End to evaluation in Birmingham, and the phone rang, and it was Paul Thompson. And he goes, listen, I just thought you better be the first to know I've just spoken to Tony, and we've parted waves. I thought, oh, Jesus. Because I'm a big Tomo man. Yeah. And I said, I'll speak to you after I come out of this valuation. So I went in the valuation, I came back, spoke to Paul, spoke to Tony. Tomo had obviously had said enough's enough. So I'm thinking, who the hell do we get now? And I phoned Gary Sago up, who was an agent. Because I hadn't done any recruiting for 3 or 4 years, having done basically the majority of the recruiting for the previous 15. So Gary was somebody who'd always looked after us well. And he said, I'll send you 3 or 4 names through of coaches who are out there. And I looked at these 3 or 4 names, and obviously you Barrasso, I know that name, Holy Jesus, that's a Pittsburgh goalie, Barrasso. So phoned Gary, did a bit of talking. He says, David, he's a different bird, but I think he'd be perfect for you. I went, okay.
He's going to say that, right?
yeah. Well, he's but so I rang Ken Priestley, the Messiah. Remember the Messiah? The
Messiah.
Priestley, yeah, who played with Tom. And Ken gave very glowing references about him.
Probably do that when he wins you a Stanley Cup ring.
That's right. Too.
You probably like him quite a lot.
But there was a few people who said, "Hey, he's a different duck. He's a different duck. He's a little bit out there. He's a bit strange." But we needed something to get the fans on side. We're going through a bad spell. The name he interviewed brilliantly well. So then I went to ownership and said, "Listen, here's a list of 3 coaches we could bring in. However, this guy's probably your name guy. Tony rang him over a couple of nights, did a deal with him. He came in. He was just very, it's very different.
What do you mean when you say, like, you say he's a bit strange?
He's very offish. He's very offish. He'd walk past you, wouldn't give you a time of day.
Oh, really? Just,
wouldn't give you a time. Oh,
just like head in his coffee, you know, just walking down.
Yeah. Hey, tell us a Mario Lemieux story. No.
Oh, really?
That's
strange because
straight on. And little things like, can you sign this Pittsburgh top? No. I go back home and they pay me to sign Pittsburgh tops. And he was a different person.
Johnny Big Wheel.
Yeah, and of course he was Johnny Big Wheel. And I go, we went up to Scotland once. Says, ever been to Scotland before? Yes, me and a few buddies. We hire a plane and we fly in once a year to play some
golf.
Yeah, like so he was. But I mean, the most immaculate bloke I've ever met in my life. Tell you a good Robert Dowd story. We're in the dressing room. And Davey Phillips, Jonathan Phillips, Tom Barrasso, myself. And they're talking about Tom saying, I'm thinking they're getting a new suit. I think I'm going to go have one down made in Savile Row. I'm going to go down to London, get fitted up. Daddy comes out the showers, towel around him, looks like a goddess.
Shredded.
Shredded, yeah. And he hasn't heard the Savile Row bit. And Daddy comes up and he just goes, Tom, if you go to Meadowhall, such and such, they're doing 2 suits for 99 quid. But Tom then would go down and had his 4 fittings. And I mean, personally, I asked him questions. He gave me answers. We never had a row. He was okay with me, but it was difficult. He wasn't for our league. And then at the end of the year, before the end of the year, we said, listen, what are your plans for next year? And he just goes, well, I won't even talk about next year till July, August, which was a blessing for us because that meant, well, Tom, we've got to employ somebody now. So I'm ever so sorry. See you later. And that's when we found Aaron.
Aaron, obviously, he had KHL experience and stuff like that, which makes it a lot easier for you guys to sign him and bring him in.
I mean, the good thing with Aaron was he was in. Oh, God, where does he live? Zagreb. Because Zagreb had just gone tits up. Right. And we'd brought John Armstrong back from Zagreb. So I'd spoken to Aaron to do the deal to bring John back. And then we brought another chap back from there. His name escapes me at the moment. Not the greatest of players, but he filled a roster spot for us and he came in. And then when I'm speaking to the agents again, we're talking about coaching and recruitment, because that's the big thing when a coach comes into this country, he has to do the recruitment.
There's no GM there signing all your guys for you.
All these GMs in the league aren't real GMs like North American GMs.
They're more like directors of hockey.
They're more like office managers. They're more like managing directors. That's what they'd be called in any other walk of life. But because it's hockey, I'm the GM. And very few GMs. I'm sure Steve Thornton, I'm sure Todd Kelman, I'm sure now Omar Pasha gets involved in bits of.
Yeah.
But Andy Buxton's the GM, if you like, of the Coventry Blaze. I'm sure he hasn't recruited a player in 25 years. Yeah, so it's Danny Stewart who has to do that. And it's predominantly the coach that does the recruiting. And Tom never picked a phone up to an agent in all the time he was in Sheffield, when we were trying to find players, because he just wanted to be a coach, which is like a lot of the coaches in Europe do. So, and we knew that when he came in, so there was no issues on that kind of thing there. And then the one agent said, well, you've spoken to Aaron Fox, haven't you? Because you've signed a couple of his players. He's really connected. He's a great recruiter. He's coached. He's played at a higher level. And we've done Zoom interviews like you and I are doing now with numerous people. And we got a couple of guys in mind. And then one Saturday, I was actually in the car park at Nottingham. And the agent rang me and said, I can't believe you haven't rang Aaron Fox yet. I said, I'll ring him now. I miss a period. I stay on the phone. I ring Aaron and we chat. And he's only in Zagreb and he's got no work. We were playing the following Wednesday at home to Glasgow. So then I phoned Tony. I said, Tony, does this guy, everybody keeps telling me we should be speaking to this guy. I've just rang him, comes across well. He's also worked for a club in Zagreb where you haven't just coached, you've ordered the bus, you've done lots of other mucking in things. I said, he's going to, he could fit in well. He's just interviewed very well. And he goes, okay, well, when we all meet on Wednesday, we'll Zoom him. I said, he's only in Zagreb, 268 quid return.
That's good.
He goes, let's bring him in. We brought him in. We interviewed him face to face in the morning. And within 5 minutes, you knew he was your guy.
That was your guy right there.
Yeah. We then go and get beat 6 or 7-0 by Glasgow.
It's just a ruin of the day.
Yeah, but he was there for that. And God, he grafts. He done half graft. 7 every morning to whatever time at night. And I get it. He hasn't had the results that lots of people would have wanted, but he's got enough. He's got enough credit in the bank right now because he's a first-class human being. He's a good coach. We have no problems with the players with him about the coaching. He's honest. He hasn't cheated us out of a penny. He's a good man, and that relationship between owner and coach is very important. And they have a very good relationship. I mean, Tony's a firm bloke. He rides everybody who works for him pretty hard, and Aaron is no exception. And you can imagine at the end of last year, there was conversations that took place.
Tough conversations, I imagine.
Very tough. Now 8:00 one morning in the arena, Tony, Sean and myself with Aaron and Carter and Mike. And good, but honest, proper conversations between 6 blokes, all trying to find the right answer. Not them and us, not it's your fault.
It's not a pissing contest, is it?
No, not at all. It's like, right, what are we going to do? Something's wrong here. Are we being too soft on the players? Are we being too hard on the players? Are the players not good enough? Are the players this, that, and the other? Are they too old? Are they too young? What's the issue? Let's work together. And that's one thing, in all fairness, Sheffield's always done, especially since Tony's been there. We do all drive the bus in the same direction. And there is not a blaming competition anywhere along the lines. We are all in it together. And Aaron's will help us with our job. We try and help him with it. We do whatever's needed in whatever area. And that's why there was no way he was getting moved on. I know a lot of noise was out there that he was going to get moved on. He wasn't going to get moved on.
So obviously Twitter has its benefits, it has its negatives, but one of the things that was pretty common is that what you're saying. There was a lot of fans in the Fox Out Brigade. And I don't know.
They were the same people in the Tomo Out Brigade, in the Barrasso Out Brigade, in the
I was just going to ask you, maybe it's just me paying attention more this year. Maybe I'm bang on, but the Elite League fans are fucking mental. Some of them are crazy losers who their whole life it just seems to be going to watching one game a week, and then going on Twitter and acting like the biggest dickheads on the planet. Some of the stuff they say, that you can tell they've never been around a player or a room or a guide, or just some of it's outrageous.
Outrageous. And some of them don't go to one game a week. I mean,
that's their worst.
We have a couple who are like very anti Fox, anti Sims, anti Smith, anti Steelers. But I'm a Steelers fan who haven't been in the ring for years, or they turn up once or twice a year. The ones that are always I always find amusing are the ones that don't put their real name.
Oh, I hate that.
But I know who they are.
Oh, that's even better.
And then, I stand out. So a 7:00 game on a Saturday, I'll be stood outside at 5:00 till 6:30 selling 50-50 tickets. We have a great team of volunteers, and they're all spread out around the arena, around the car parks, and we're doing that. And these people come to me with a smile on your face. Hey, Simsy, how are you? You okay? Great game, so I hope we win. Oh, we were unlucky last night, weren't we? Oh, here's me $5. Thanks very much. To me face, like the nicest bloke in the world. And I'm thinking, you little shit, you're the one who's like starting threads off, but you've got a false name, and there's loads of them like that to your face are absolutely terrific. But as soon as they get on the screen,
I have a rule, mate. I have a rule. If you don't have a real name and you don't have a picture of you as your fucking screen name, we just block you straight away. We just like block. I've got no time for that. Like, if you want to come on and call me all the names under the sun, tell me my podcast shit, tell me I'm a shit player. If you do that as John Smith and a picture of John Smith, fair play. I have no issue. Like, absolutely
100%.
fine. But if you're doing it as John the Postie 4719 or whatever, and you've got a picture of a post fan and you're coming on and telling me I'm all the dickheads, I'm just going to block it. Like, I've got zero time.
No, there's
toxic.
There's so much of that.
Do you find any of that goes back to the players, Simsy? Do you find any of the players getting slagged and slated big time?
100%. No, 100%. We warn our players right at the start of the year. We say we have a brilliant fan base, the most incredible fan base. But because it's such a big fan base, the law of averages is we have a few idiots as well. Yeah, and they'll find you on Twitter, on Instagram, on whatever. Just be careful. Don't give too much out there, because otherwise it will come back and hurt you at the end. And I think most of the players are pretty good now on that kind of stuff. Some guys love the social media. Valorant Marco loves it, and he's big onto the social media.
You would if you look like that guy.
Yeah, to be fair, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, if you look like him, social media is probably pretty good to you.
Yeah, but then there are some that are they keep it very private, and they're sensible kids. And we keep it away from them.
What about in and around the arenas and stuff like that? So obviously back in my day when the EPL, whether you played home or away, you would then meet the fans for a pint after. You'd go up and you'd say hello and you'd sign the kids' autographs and stuff like that. I know the game's got a lot more professional now, but is there still situations where the fans and the players are mixing and the...
Yeah, my God, I mean, look at our business. Look at our business model right now with fans. There is a lot of interaction. 7 o'clock game on a Saturday, 3 o'clock, Jono will arrive. And by 3:30,
he's doing push-ups in the fucking car park getting ready.
That's right. See you later. And then by 3:30, 4 o'clock, the others there'll be hundreds of people outside waiting for them to come in. And then when you go out at night, hundreds of people. And we do fan events, pool nights, all the stuff that all you guys used to do, and it still happens. What doesn't happen now is, if I remember back to 91, 92, 93, when we first started in Sheffield, there's a pub directly opposite the road. Yeah. And we'd come out of that, we'd go into there and we'd have a beer. Yeah. Like you would have done in all
exactly that.
Exactly. That doesn't happen now. At the end of the game, I mean, for a player now, end of the game, they'll go into the sponsors lounge. I do different things on the players' bench. Mark O'Connor does lots of stuff in the sponsors lounge. Mike Mauer's there. He's doing his warm downs. He's doing cold baths. He's doing guys on the bikes. He's doing all the stuff that he's doing. And then when they've done that, they wander off into like an eating area, and the chefs from the arena have cooked them the chicken, the pasta, the potatoes there, whatever.
That's brilliant. Yeah. That feels like
no, it is. And the referees get that as well. And they, two power plays a meal it costs them.
Yeah, right. That's what. There's the other thing that happens on the weekly. And even though I've played for fucking a dozen teams, I never watch a game going, "Oh, I hope Swindon win. I hope Belfast win." Like, I watch them as neutral, which means I have no horse in the race. And obviously, I've played. I can tell you when a ref is good. I can tell you when a ref's bad. The amount of people that talk about, "Oh, well, Tony Smith must have bought this," and the Sheffield Steelers run the fucking Elite League refs and all this shit every week. I'd be at that game and go, "Ref had a fucking cracking game. Like, the ref was great. Didn't make it. That was a penalty. That what your guy did was a penalty. Like, what their guy did was a clean hit." They've got this narrative that they tend to run with. Do you see a lot of that as well?
Listen, Tony Smith is possibly the hardest working bloke I know. He's the best boss I've ever had. And Tony, he's got Rhino, the clothing shirts. He's got the sports bar next door, and he's got the Steelers. And I wouldn't say he does a lot of work on any one of the three of them, because the majority of his time he's trying to make sure our league is run. Unpaid. It's an unpaid position. And the crap and the shit and the mess and things he has to sort out all the time. Him and Todd Kelman basically run our league. And without the two of them, we'd be lost. And fortunately, Tony's got rhinoceros skin, so it doesn't really bother him too much that Tony paid the refs or Tony owns the league or Tony does it. Trust me, if Tony owned the league, we'd have won a bit more in the last few years.
Couple of more trophies in the cabinet.
Yeah, we'd have been on that. But no, the work he does is terrific in ensuring that things happen, and the playoffs is Todd's baby. Yeah, so no, it's some of the crap that you read and you hear on that is lunacy. But we try and treat the referees well. They they have a nice dressing room, and they don't just get a stale sandwich. They get chicken and vegetables and potatoes and whatever they want in the in the area. And some of the guys go, listen, boys, we just want to shoot off. We don't want to sit and eat. That's okay. We'll pack it up for you. There you go. Off your troubles. Thank you very much for coming.
How have you found the standard of the officiating this year?
It's just so inconsistent, isn't it? That's the biggest problem. It's so inconsistent, and that's the biggest issue. We had Toby Craig come down for the playoff game. Toby, obviously, referees up in Scotland. We don't see a lot of him, so he came down and he got a couple of Scottish officials with him, and he was sending me all these text messages about partners coming and would there be a ticket. I'm thinking, you're getting a bit worried about all this. I've sorted it out. I've texted you back once to say, yeah, sorted. Don't worry, Toby. You come around the back, you get the private car park, you come in. And anyway, they came in and we got them access. Everything went well. Fed them and did everything. And then I got a text the next morning off him saying, oh, can't believe how well you treated us officials, but even more so how you treated the officials' partners and wives and how they were well looked after. And you think, well, that's just normal. That's what we do. We try and do that. And Sheffield gets a bad rap for a lot of the things it does. But we do try. We don't get everything right. We get lots of things wrong. But we do try very much to do things the right way. So people can say that's so obviously other clubs don't do it as well as that, because for him to text me, he must have had a few bad experiences. But no, we do try and look after people. And it all costs money. And 10 years ago, we couldn't afford to do it. And 5 years, we could only afford to do a little bit more. And now we can afford to do a little bit more now.
Yes.
And as time goes on, I'm sure we'll do more still. But yeah, we try our best to do that. And it's obviously working, because this year was our second largest crowds ever, even going back to the early 90s. We were only beaten by 1 year.
That's interesting, because
incredible gates this year. Incredible. I don't know how people afford to do it, because we have special deals on tickets, and
I saw some nights you're doing like £8 tickets. And
well, they're
stuff.
£5. They're not even £8, but they are £8. But we charge a £5. But then the arena got in bed with Ticketmaster, who do all
of course,
and Ticketmaster have the fees and the arena fees, so it costs £8. But we get a £5 off that. They were the games. Do you remember when we used to play some games in our Sheffield?
Yeah.
But really, we wanted to play all our games in the arena. But a Wednesday night against Dundee in the arena, we'd lose our shirts. So the arena and Tony did a deal where we could play in the arena. We do it at a reduced fee. There'd be different scales, and away it went. And if you like, we've used those 6 or 7 discount games as our marketing games to try and get people over the doorstep for the first time. And then from them, and that's why we sell so many replica shirts, T-shirts. It's why
I like T-shirts. They're smart.
Yeah, it's like, so our merchandising is good. You know, our 50-50, our shirts off the back raffle, our programs, we hard sell them, and we make our money perhaps in different areas.
The 50-50 has always been notoriously good in Sheffield. What have you had? What have you had as your biggest pot this year?
It was about 10 grand on boxing or something. Yeah,
fucking moving it. Go to hockey, sink a few pints, go away 10 grand richer.
And you know what? I tell you, every year it's the same. We have 30 odd games a year. 2 or 3 times a year, somebody will win that. It's their first game, and they take home 3 grand. Yeah, because we average about £3 grand a game or something like that. And they do. But what that started, if you remember, when Paul Reagan left, there was no season ticket money. So Tony took it over with 1,500 whatever season ticket holders who'd paid their season tickets, but Tony hadn't got any of the money, so we had to honour free tickets.
Oh, Jesus.
So we sat down one day, and he goes to Mike O'Connor, you've got to sell another 2 suites, and you've got to make me X pound a game extra. You've got to do this. What are you going to do? I'll tell you what you can do. You can stand in the car park and you can flog some 50-50s, and let's see if we can get that £200 up to 500. And that'd be nice if we would make an extra £300 a game. Yeah. First game, we got it to 600, second to 8, third to 1,000. And you know what it's like. It's nice taking cash off somebody. It's a great feeling.
Yeah.
And I also thought it was perfect for me. I could go, if I did it, I'd find a group of volunteers that would do it. If they could see me grafting, they would do it. And then in between the periods, I do the same. I do my announcing as soon as the end of the first period, Steelers lead 2-1, see you later, folks. And then I'm off running around the arena flogging tickets. And it's gone terrifically well. But also what it does, it connects you. If there's a little problem brewing, they'll tell you. They know where to find you. Hey, Simsy, I've got to tell you, people walking up and down the steps, you can tell them to sit down. Or, oh my God, box office is terrible tonight. What's going on? You hear these things that you don't hear when you're 300 foot up in the air.
Yeah.
So it's been good financially. It's been good to keep our ears on the ground and connected with people. It was also like Pride.
Good business. It's a good business model.
The Pride weekend. We did the Pride weekend, and is this going to be a good thing, a bad thing? You know, is it going to be commercial? Is it going to work? Is it this, that, and the other? And then when we met the day after, we always have our debrief. I went, oh my God, I saw new faces that I'd never seen.
We are very, very happy to announce that Hurricane e-bikes are now our title sponsor for 4,000 and Counting podcast. Hurricane e-bikes are the subscription pay-as-you-go e-bike service. You can swap them out anytime, change them. You get spare tires. You don't have to be locked into a long-term deal. They come out, they service your bikes. That even includes like wear and tear. You get a lifetime warranty with one of the Hurricane e-bikes, which is amazing. They start from as little as £1.85 per day. Includes a lock as well. Like the website's very good. If you head over to hurricane.bike, so that is HURRECANE.bike. You'll be able to go onto the website, how it works. You select your bike, you then add your accessories, whether you want helmets, locks, etc. Confirm your details, and it's simple as that. It'll be on its way to you. They have a few options available. They have a few different color options available. They have the Freedom 400 step through. They have the Freedom 410 hybrid, the Freedom 420 hybrid. Then they've got some really cool looking F220 fat bikes. They're awesome. They've got that in black. They've got that in purple. They got their H250 cruiser bike. Again, looks really, really cool. And then these are my favorite ones. I'm guessing these are probably going to be the most expensive ones. But my favorite ones, the M250 mountain bike. Pedal assist levels 5. So if you've got bad knees or bad back, but you still want to get out on your bike, that is the way to do it. You've got the M350 mountain bike. That's for off-roading. Any of you guys that girls want to get out in the hills, out in the mountains, down the paths, get involved in some fun stuff. That is also pedal assist 5. So it helps anybody that's got injuries. And even if you're not injured, you just want to get out, you want to zip around, have some fun. I've rode these bikes at the Ozone tournament. They are great fun. And finally, you have the RS8 e-bike off-road. That comes in like a matte black. Absolutely cool. Lifetime warranty for all bikes, for your LCD screens, for your batteries, for your motor, all the components. No expensive bills come in later on. Put everything together. No servicing costs. No need to buy. No interest costs, no long-term agreement, no maintenance costs, no worries, lifetime warranty. So head to Hurricane e-bikes and check out our new sponsor.
And now we go huge on the Pride. The last 2 or 3 Prides, we went huge on it, and we do it throughout the year. Because I know the faces. I walk down the steps. I know who stood on the left. I don't know their names. I know every face in that building. And then all of a sudden you start seeing new faces, and then those new faces have got a replica shirt on. Then those faces have got a hat on, and then you're in Coventry and you see one of them new faces go into an away game, and you're building a brand, and you're building a fan base, and you're building a safe place to come. Autistic kids. I always thought autism didn't like loud noises, didn't like flashing lights. And to most people, autism was that Dustin Hoffman film, Rain Man.
Yeah,
that was my only connection with autism. I am telling you, there is a humongous amount of autistic kids in our audience. And some of them, you recognise them because they've got the headphones on, the sound out. We've got an incredible... So now we've hooked up with Rotherham's Autistic Society. And if I said hundreds to you, I'm not exaggerating. of autistic kids. So there's a connection there. So then you think, okay, and it's a safe place where everybody can come. And it's a lovely building, fabulous home for us. And we've managed, even in these difficult times, to send the attendances through the roof, which has been good.
It was one of the things that I had written down. Like, didn't write any questions. I just wrote some bullet points down. Not that I've looked at them, but it was the attendances. Not only the Steelers, the league as a whole, over 1 million people through the door last year. That's got to be good for business.
It's got to be. And you know what? They all do work hard. They do work hard. That Dundee club works hard. You know, when Omar was there, he turned it around and he got it working with the Ward brothers there. They work hard. Todd Kelman and his staff work hard. Yeah, that lady in that office, she frightens me, and but she works hard. Yeah. They do. And Belfast are lucky because Belfast have got obviously the infrastructure with the charity and the staffing levels that they've got there. They work hard. It's no secret when you played, hard work pays off.
Yeah, of course.
On the ice, off the ice, it pays off. If you want to see some of the volunteers we have. And they're coming from work, they're greased up, they're still in the work gear, and they grab a satchel and they flood programs, flood tickets, they graft, old-fashioned graft. And they do well. And then good things happen to those good people who do those good things. And I think all the there's a couple of clubs you would love them just to set a fire under the backsides a little bit.
By Flyers, by any. They can't be having 900 people in Simsey on a fucking Elite League game. You can't have it.
Fife is an easy one to look at, and maybe they've sat on their laurels a little bit, and maybe because they own their own facility and they just expect folk to come up. It's a different game there. But yeah, Fife will be a club. I think Coventry stagnated a little bit in recent times.
Low numbers there.
But they've done well on the crowd base, but Danny can't do everything, and he's a top old bean, Danny. But I'm sure I'm not criticising Fife and Coventry, but they're two clubs that you think, I'm sure I don't see a lot from them going on. Right. There may be more than we see. But I'm sure they would, if they were on your podcast, be going, bloody Sheffield, don't do this, or Sheffield, don't do that. So nobody's perfect, and we can all learn off each other.
That's something I took away from the Todd Kelman interview, and I interviewed Killer on here. He was like, so we not stole, but I think it was maybe Dundee or Fife. They went up there and they had always done chuck a puck at the end of the first period. And then he's up in Dundee one night or Fife, wherever it is, and they do it after the second period. Why do you do that? There's an extra 20 minutes. There's an extra whole period that you could sell pucks. Even if you only sell an extra 50 bucks, there's an extra 50 quid in the pot. Like,
nobody has a novel idea anymore. We all steal and adapt.
Yeah.
We all steal and adapt.
And he said about they're talking about it though, then go to that club and they go, you do that. Like, it's going to help our game. It's going to help a league.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
You have a good structure within the Elite League now. The 10 teams are all quite well established. Everyone kind of knows what direction they're going in. The league as a whole has got a lot better since, the days of sadly the days of the enforcers gone. Bring back Vial, bring back Mike Ware. But the league's so different.
You and I would love that. But unfortunately, life has changed, hasn't it? It's not just hockey. It's across the board. I saw the amount of parents I saw carry their kit bags out of their kids' kit bags out of Sheffield on Saturday, and you think you got to say something. What's the point?
I'd got a clip around the ear, mate.
Yeah, I was going to say, I bet you Jonathan Phillips' kids carry their own kit bags.
Oh, they carry their own kits.
No, Dad's carrying that. So it has changed, and it's like I'm 57 now. So years ago, I was not the same age as some of the players, but I was roughly in their age bracket when it all started. So you could have similar conversation. I walk in there now, I'm older than their dads. So, but you know what it's like? The married players, the older players, they look to the young players to bring the stories every morning.
Of course, yeah, keeps the room loose.
Exactly. You look at the young players now, they were in bed at 9 o'clock with a milkshake.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, don't go out, don't get laid, don't go to the strippers.
No, nothing.
Don't do it. oh yeah, we went to Manchester. You know, they go to the football maybe, or they'll do that. And oh yeah, we've been to the National Trust place. we've been walking the
a bit different.
You're thinking, crikey, come on. Yeah. So, but the life has changed, and us old ones, of course, we find it hard to adapt to this new way of life. But
Yeah,
old school versus new school. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no one's cancelled me yet, so we'll keep it going.
They've tried with me a few times.
Oh, mate, yeah, you just again go back to Smithy's fucking rhino skin, mate. I've got it in spades. Like, it is what it is. Going into like Sheffield, obviously you've got yourself and the Dogs, two ice hockey teams. You have Wednesday, you have United, two football teams. You then have the Institute of Sport amongst hundreds of other massive sports in Sheffield.
Rotherham, Barnsley, yeah. Doncaster.
What's the relationship with? Do you have any sort of relationships with the football clubs or anything like that, where you can send the guys for a day out?
A little bit with United. Tony has a relationship with some of the people who work at Sheffield United, but not real partnerships as such. No,
I just thought it was always nice for the boys to
partnerships.
Nice for the boys to get a free day out every now and again.
Oh, yeah, they go Man City.
Oh, okay.
Mark Thomas. Well, you remember Neil Russell? He's got to Everton now, mind you. He used to look after the boys. The Thomas family. Unfortunately, Mark's grandfather, Tudor, a lovely bloke, passed away. He was the president of Man City, and the boys would go there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did not know that.
You should get Mark Thomas on, actually. He's
By the way, him winning your 50-50 is still my favourite story.
Great story.
Because I think what you said last time, what people don't realise, these boys still buy tickets every week. We used to do it. The 50-50 sellers in like Swindon, Bayside, their first port of call was in the dressing room when we're still drinking our coffee and our sweats and we'd buy 50-50s every week. And it's nice when a player wins.
I got a text message. Maybe Ben O'Connor. We've just stopped at the services to get cash. See you in half an hour.
We want the dough.
And they lined up, pretty much the whole team lined up, and I'm just peeling them up. And of course, on Boxing Day, Nottingham players get money out on Boxing Day. Some of our boys do it every week, some of them don't. But yeah, the good story with Mark was that when he won it, one of the equipment guys had got his ticket, and we were 3 goals up against Nottingham, 5 minutes to go. Taps Mark on the shoulder and says, "You've won the 50-50." And he's like, "Honestly, I won it. Dave Matsos was the coach, sends him out, gets scored on, comes back. Next shift, he goes out, gets scored on. Tomo was all over the place. You just sit there for the rest of the game, Tomo.
Yeah,
now, yeah. But yeah, he won all that money.
Well, he's another great guy.
A year or 2 years later, I forget which it was, his best mate from Manchester, he'd finished playing then. Mark came and he bought 20 quid worth of tickets on Boxing Day for him, 20 quid for his best mate. Photographed the tickets for his best mate. Text message, WhatsApped it up to his mate. And it was a double rollover or something. His mate won nearly 15 grand. Yeah, so twice.
So if you ever go to Sheffield, let Tomo buy your tickets.
Let Tomo buy your tickets, yeah.
Yeah, he's got the hot hand. Yeah, great guy. Obviously, really, really sad what happened to his wife. And it's nice to see him kind of like building his life again. And
kids playing for, I think his kids playing something at the moment. And
it's good.
Brilliant. Yeah, he's a top bloke.
Well,
top his parents and then his grandparents, and they always used to come, and comes from real good stock.
You talk about good guys. Ben O'Connor, good friend of mine. He got some fucking stick from the Sheffield lot throughout this year, and when he left there, I thought it was quite unfair. And I sometimes don't think these fans realise what side the fucking bread's buttered on. Sometimes they don't quite get it.
I think they forget their own. I think sometimes fans forget their own lives, and players they're just doing a different job. Yeah. I mean, I've known Benny since he was 5 or 6. I know his dad. His dad's one of my best mates, and Benny and I are good. And yeah, you know what? Benny couldn't come to terms with Sheffield. Aaron, Tony, Benny, difference of opinion. Off you go, Benny. That's his. I mean, the garden just out here. I can remember that I did over 10,000 steps up and down my garden. It's not a very big garden, trying to persuade Benny to take the deal that we'd given him. Didn't work. And Benny decided to go his different route. That's fine. Then Benny has his other issues, down the line, and social media just makes them horrible and stuff like that. So it's nasty stuff. And But Benny's a good lad. He was at the Dowdy's testimonial, and he's in the middle of things. And he's Benny. I got to be honest. If you walk into a room and Benny's happy, there's no better place in the world to be. If Benny's sad, it's not going to be a good place. The last few times I've seen Benny again, Benny seems to have got his sparkle back. And when he walks into a dressing room, or when you meet him outside or whatever, and he's a good lad. We all love him. He's a good boy.
Yeah, I think fans forget sometimes that these are actual human beings as well, and
they do
when they're going on and like trying to air their private life all over social media, and they're getting involved in things that are away from the rink. They need to learn their place. This is real guys here that you're talking about, and
they're making millions of pounds here. Nobody in our sport getting rich.
No,
there's a few people making a reasonable living, not a good living, a reasonable living. For 32 weeks of the year, not 52, for 32 weeks of the year, or 33 or 34, whatever it turns out to be. But nobody's getting super rich here. There's no Beckhamites. I mean, it's David Longstaff, not Sean Longstaff. It's that.
Yeah, that's great analogy. That's a great analogy. For those that don't know, are new to the game, Lobby, British legend, arguably top 3 of all time.
The funniest man God has put on the planet.
His son plays for Newcastle United. So we're talking money scales of.
I think the most we ever paid David Longstaff was £750 a week in his apartment.
There you go. His boy probably got that when he was 15, playing for the under-16s at Newcastle. So it is what it is. He's probably on 60, 70 bags a week now, like ripping up the Premier League.
Yeah. Do you notice every time Newcastle lose, he isn't playing? They lost last night, he wasn't playing. They had that run of 15 to 16 games, and Sean was playing in them all. Yeah. So I think the new manager likes Sean, which is good. Sean's a good lad.
Yeah, they're both good lads.
They always said that Matty was going to be the one. They thought Matty was going to be the better one. I thought he scores that wonder goal against Manchester United on Match of the Day. Alan Shearer waxing lyricals, which was brilliant. And then I think he got injured, and then he got funneled out to a couple of clubs on loan.
He went down to Kilmarnock, didn't he, in Scotland on loan?
Played for Nigel Clough, didn't he? For a year.
Oh, you're asking the wrong person.
Wherever, was it Burton or Macclesfield or something like that? He played there for a little bit.
He had some stories, Nigel Clough. God, I bet that guy had some stories for days.
Be a good guy to get on, wouldn't it?
Oh, can you imagine? What have you found with the league? Obviously, we've talked about it on this podcast. I kind of think the way the Challenge Cup is a bit dead. I get why they do it that way. And I would love, I know Todd won't go for it, I would love to see it switch to playoff series. Obviously, playoff series as opposed to aggregate, I think completely changes things. I would love to see the Challenge Cup being done more of a playoff weekend, get that done nice and early in, say, November, December, and then have a proper playoff series, 3 games, 5 games. It was interesting to ask for your perspective, obviously, because you know the arena, you know how much it costs, and you know how much it costs to potentially have it sat there empty.
It costs circa £1 million to run the league, okay?
Yeah.
So whatever system you come up with, you've got to have that kind of money at the end of it to run the league. And of course, the playoff final weekend pays a lot of that. I turn to my old mate again, Paul Thompson, and that what you've just said is exactly what they do in Denmark.
Okay.
So what they do, their first, so say they play 3 home, 3 away. Their first home and first away count twice. They count in the league standings and they count in this little other competition standing. The top 4 teams then play a playoff finals weekend, but they play it in January.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. And then at the end of the year, they play their best of 7 series.
I would love that here.
We all would love it here. Unfortunately, it just, I think how it raises money for the league is a tough one. But B, there are certain clubs that just couldn't do it. The Belfast travel, how you would book flights at short notice, the costings. And every time it's brought up, trust me, around the table, there's been very bright people trying to find solutions to the Challenge Cup issue. And listen, if you've got a Challenge Cup solution, the league will take it on board because we've thought of everything, and it has to benefit all the clubs.
Yeah.
And
is the fear then that would it say switch to a Challenge Cup weekend as opposed to the playoff weekend, that it wouldn't be as well attended, say in December, January time, as it would be in April?
I don't think it would be as well attended, no. It wouldn't be an end of season. I think we're all pretty convinced on that. It's more so what you do with the Challenge Cup games, because the groupings, and they do give Belfast an advantage. We all accept that. Belfast accept that. But those geographical groups keep Dundee, Glasgow, Fife, they're money games.
Yeah.
They're not travel games, they're money games. And remember, we've got to keep all these teams solvent, and we've got to make sure that they all invest in their product, which they do. So why does Dundee want to be travelling to a Challenge Cup round-robin game against Guildford when it could be going to Fife?
Yeah.
Their crowds
financially, it's a lot better off, isn't it?
It is. Unfortunately, all this boils down to money.
Yeah, because who's in your group? Manchester. So that's probably quite a big game.
You want to tell Ryan Finnerty that instead of playing 2 games against Nottingham and 2 games against Sheffield, he's now going to play 1 against Dundee, 1 against Fife, 1 against Belfast. Yeah, got to travel to Belfast as well, Ryan, and 1 against Cardiff.
Doesn't make the numbers add up, does it?
Doesn't make his numbers add up, and that's what we've got to do. We've got to make it add up for all the clubs. So we all accept. Don't think anybody around the Elite League table thinks, "Well, this Challenge Cup, we've got this now. What a great idea this is." They don't. They don't for a second. In fact, Todd brought a new format to the table at our last but one board meeting, and it suited half a dozen clubs. It didn't suit some of the others. I think you have to get 7 votes to get it passed. But on something I think as serious as that, we'd probably want it almost unanimous.
And that is important.
You've got to pay the bills. You've been involved in this sport long enough that you've heard the rumour that Fred Smith at such and such a club hasn't had his money this week. You don't
Mate,
ever.
I've had it. I had it in Bracknell.
Yeah.
You boys aren't getting paid this week. Like,
yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I was in Solihull. We used to run around, beg, stealing, borrowing. That's how we got through it. I've been at that situation in Sheffield before with different owners, and you're thinking, "Oh, Jesus." When's the last time you heard of a Elite League player not being paid?
Never.
No, they get the money. And when we're talking to players these days now about, some of them are coming out of check and they haven't got the last month's pay. How many guys have come out of that club in Ljubljana in January, February, and they've missed the last month's pay? The reason you don't have that trouble in the Elite League is because everything is geared to bums on seats, and it is geared to the attractive games. Do Sheffield and Nottingham play against each other too many times? Probably. But tell the accountant that.
Yeah, the accountant doesn't give a shit about that.
Then people go, "Oh, the rivalry is not what it used to be." Well, no rivalry is what it used to be. No rivalry is. But I'm telling you, we're 7,500, 8,000 people every time Nottingham turn up. They're sold out. As horrible a season as they had, I'm telling you, even at their worst ever, there weren't many seats in their building on any night when we turned up in there. And that's what pays the bills. Dundee play Fife, pays the bills. Fife play Dundee. Fife play Glasgow. Those games, very important.
They are, because it
brings
the highest attendances.
Yeah, the mighty Sheffield. We might think, "Wow, the mighty Sheffield Steelers going to Dundee." But Jimmy McTavish in Dundee, he's not asked about the Sheffield Steelers. He'd much rather wait till next week in Fife or Glasgow or somebody else come down there, which, of course, is where the biggest change in our sport finances in the last few years has been webcasting.
Yeah, fantastic.
Because now there might only be 150 people from Sheffield that go to Dundee, but there might be 500 people watching it on the webcast.
15 quid a pop, it adds up.
15 quid a pop, it adds up. It's significant money now. Significant money is made.
It's probably, and if it can continue to grow, we talk about, trying to get 500 quid with a 50-50, trying to get 600 quid. Well, maybe now it's trying to get $1,000 on a webcast, try to get 1,500 quid, try to get $2,000. And if you're doing that every week, at the end of the season, that's a tidy little number after 28 games, 29 games, whatever it is.
Those numbers, you can double and triple those numbers you've just mentioned for every game.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. It's proper money, which is good because we all need income pots. Because again, Solihull when I started, Sheffield when we started, we had one income pot. It was called how many people came through the door. Yeah. That was it. And you've got to have income pots. And I remember Tony was saying that we've got to just have income pots all the way around. So our merchandising, our online shop, our 50/50, our shirts off the back raffle. People go, oh, bloody hell, Sheffield, they've got another shirt. Yeah, that other shirt. And we've got 20 prizes on our shirt raffle tonight. And we'll make double what we would have normally made. And then you've got the sweets. So we've tried to create income pots, and lots of other clubs do it exactly the same way. And webcasting is one of those ways.
That's interesting that we get to this. Obviously, I was going to come around to it at some point, but you've obviously been there. You've done the TV gig. You've been there when it was in the pump on Sky Sports. It's now moved across to Viaplay. I thought they did a great job on the Elite League playoff weekend. Well,
they did a great job on the England, the British show, not the England, the British show. Yeah.
And on the. I don't know how
Murphy remembers all them names, because I did it for a long time, and I did it in our league, and it's kind of easy in our league. But then when you go and do the international games, now I thought him and Paul did a good job on that.
They did do a very good job. Would you think it'd be beneficial to get? Remember, you boys had like the weekly roundup. Do you think it'd be beneficial to get something like that going again?
Well, I was very lucky. I just did it with Anna Woolhouse, so I was happy.
Yeah, happy days. Worst ways to spend a couple of hours.
Every year we get the countdown 10, 9, 8, and I just, you smell good tonight, Anna.
Let's go.
And you know what?
She smashed it, hasn't she?
Isn't she brilliant? And you couldn't be more pleased with her, because I was just going to say, one of the nicest people. I couldn't say about. I worked with her 5 years. Couldn't tell you. Never had a crossword with her. So nice, so respectful, really good, very professional. And I remember when we knew the Sky gig had finished, and we went and picked our gear up in one of the trucks, and I gave her a hug, and I said, well, I'm going back to flogging houses in Birmingham. I says, but you make sure you smash it. And holy mackerel, has she ever. Good luck to her. I follow her Instagram, and I tune into the boxing, and when I say I'm as proud as punch that I was there at the start for her, because she's a wonderful kid. She's a grown woman. She's a lovely lady. But all those people at the video who did it, there was a guy there called James Mitchell who was terrific with me, and it was great. To your point, would a highlight show? The big difference now is all the clubs are so good at getting their highlights out.
Yeah.
You within 24 hours of a game ending, you've got edited highlights, multi-camera positions. Look at we're very lucky in Sheffield, so and I use that as a caveat. But Dave Burnham and Vision Mix get all our stuff out, and it's better than the TV companies.
Oh yeah,
it's incredible stuff. So people know.
But no one's finding it by accident. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if I'm watching, I don't know, Man U, Arsenal on one channel, and it gets to half time, and I'm having a little fucking flicking about, go, ooh,
yeah,
ice hockey. What's this all about?
I'm sure Viaplay could do that. Aaron's he's a clever enough bloke. He knows how to do that, and I know our league wouldn't have any objections to that. So I know the league and Viaplay are talking about lots of things at the moment. So let's see what comes up.
Well, we talk about like the way it is now with Dundee Stars TV. I'll use them for example. I thought when they announced Kyle Haas last year, and the video they put together, and the music and the theatre and everything, but 2.5, 3 minute clip, and you're like, I cannot wait to see this guy play.
Who was the guy they announced this week coming back?
Name escapes me.
Many years ago, I saw the video only a few days ago.
It was you in the kilt, wasn't it?
Yeah, me in the kilt. So we go up, and Steve Ward's had a bet with me that I won't wear a kilt on Sky. So I'll put the kilt on, and we do the show in the kilt and do lots of things. And one of the things was there was half a dozen kids from their juniors, and so I give it the old. And these lads have been playing. They've just beaten Edinburgh today, 5-1. Well done, boys. And they want to be Dundee Stars. And when we come back after the break, it is the Dundee Stars versus.
I think it's Chris Inglis, isn't it? He's a Dundee.
Yeah. Right. And then they put that video out, and he was one of the kids. How cool is that? I think that was
such a good idea, by the way.
Right.
And it's thinking outside the box. We talk about the EIHL and Ice of the UK being here. Stuff like that is over here.
Listen, you were at the playoff finals. Dundee Stars weren't at the playoff finals, but Dundee Stars TV were at the playoff finals. And that shows to me that them blokes are trying. They were. So I said earlier, clubs that worked hard. Dundee, every single department of Dundee's trying. It's working. It's trying to do something. You have to tip your hat to them. You go to that rink, it's full. And they do a terrific job. I got to be honest. Have you ever heard of Dundee Webcast?
Yeah.
The two guys there, they do it in a very different way. And I think a lot of fans absolutely love it. It's not commentary. They're just talking about anything and everything.
Just shooting the shit, yeah.
They're just shooting shit. And it is quite humorous. It's not my cup of tea. It's not what I would choose to do. But lots of people tune in. And I bet you that Dundee Stars webcast is one of the most profitable in the entire league. And credit to them guys for doing it that way. Yeah, but no, I think Dundee Stars, all the clubs should look at Dundee, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Help each other.
None of those are in because they should say, well, hold on a second, Dundee are finishing bottom 2 every year, but yet they're still increasing their crowds. How are they doing that? Well, they're making it a better experience for fans to go to. They're promoting it so there's more people that know it's happening. And it's a great night when you get there. You know, only one team can win. So the other teams have got to make sure that they put a good show on. That's what we try and do in Sheffield.
The on ice product in Sheffield, obviously we talked about this on the start. Over the years, notorious winners was winning titles, slowed down a little bit over the past maybe 5-6 seasons. What's going to be the difference with the on ice product next year that we're going to see that's going to lead you back to the promised land?
I'll tell you Wednesday when we speak to Aaron. I hope he's got some ideas. Hey, it won't be through lack of trying. It won't be through lack of hard work. From him, from everybody at the club to try and, our job is to make sure Aaron has the tools to do his job, and that if he finds somebody, we can accommodate them. So hopefully I'm sure there'll be a big turnaround of players, because in Sheffield, unfortunately, if you lose 2 years running 3 trophies, then you're not going to be hanging around a lot. So there's going to be a turnover. I think there'll be a pretty big turnover in Sheffield, and we'll try and rebuild again and just try and work hard to ensure that next year when you and I speak, we have got a trophy in the shot.
There's going to be guys that I imagine probably already signed, but Dowd, Jones, your British guys.
Yeah, no, Dowdy's signed, Jones is signed, Brandon Whistle's signed.
So
those three Brits have signed. We announced Greenfield, of course, and there's a couple of 3 other guys that I think have got pen to paper or are very close to it.
We talked about like your apprentice program. Alex Graham obviously doing big things with the Steel Dogs last year, stepped up, played a good amount of games for you guys as well. With the league changing,
we all like it. No, we all like Alex. We want Alex to be we want Alex's photograph to be on the bus.
Yeah,
we want Alex to be on the bus stop. We want Alex's, he's Sheffield's own. He's one of our own, all that stuff that comes with it. God, no, we want him part of it. We want him in.
We got to get guys like that. So the national team are going to have some guys. They've got to come from somewhere.
Yeah, they've got to come from somewhere. I mean, I'm surprised we've gone for an hour and we haven't gone 14 imports, 15 imports.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute.
But whether it's 1 import or 21 imports, there has to be a pathway from that 6-year-old to the 26-year-old pro, and there has to be that. There's enough Brits playing in our league to give whoever the coach of the national team is enough Brits to choose from in all positions. That was the same last year, it was this year, and it will be the same next year and the year after that. We are finding it as a league, and again, I say we as a league because in Sheffield, if we really want somebody, we can kind of go out and get them. It's Sheffield, it's the Steelers, it's the Arena, it's the rah-rah. We can find our contingent of British players. But lots of other clubs find it very difficult to bring in. You and I have had this discussion many a time about the part-time play and a full-time job. You mentioned it, I think it was Glasgow or Bray who offered you a job, and it was easier for you or it was better for you financially to be your personal trainer through the day and play hockey at weekends and make your money there. And the same still applies today. I mean, why is Kieran Brown in that league? He should not be in that league.
I don't know. And the other thing is,
nobody
knows. Nobody knows.
Well, there's 2 things. One, to bring him into our league, it would be ridiculously expensive.
Like it's going to be now, yeah.
Ridiculously expensive because he's paid so well and where he is. And I do think, and I loved Kieran, and out of all the kids that came through, Kieran, Cole, Liam, there was another lad, a defenseman who went to Leeds as well, and then Alex. I thought that Kieran Brown was the best one of all of them, and I include Kirk in that. at the level they were when they came to us, because he had a bit of spunk about him. He had a little
Oh,
bit
he does
of
still.
yeah. And I thought, God, he's going to be the one. He's going to be the one who's going to be the next Dowdy. He's going to be one that's.
He still might be. He's still only 22.
You never know. You never know. I do think he quite enjoys the big fish, small pond. I think he does enjoy that.
So we had him on here just before the playoff finals weekend in Coventry, so 3 or 4 weeks back. Yeah. We talked about his time with the Steelers, and he's like never shutting the door on that. And I said to him, like, if the Elite League's not really an option, would you go to Europe? And he's like, yeah, I would. Could we maybe see him bypass the Elite League and go out to Europe next year? No,
because there's not a team in Europe that's going to take him as an import player from the second league in Britain.
Do you not think?
No.
What if he's in? What if he cements his place in the national team? Obviously, he got called up this year. If he gets called up again,
it's not going to happen, because the countries that would be looking at him would be not paying him the kind of money that he would. He would. He's not going to go to Italy. He's not going to go to Italy too. He had the chance to go to Italy too a year or so ago. He's not going to go that. So he's either going to be a career EIHL player, or he's going to come across. And I hope he comes across. I'd love to see him in Sheffield. I liked him. I thought he was a bit of fun. I thought he was the closest thing to old school. The lad I feel for the most is Shudra. Because I don't know if you've ever done one of these with Cole.
No, I haven't.
Top lad. Comes from good stock.
I love his old man.
Ronnie's dad, his mum Debbie's, he's off the charts, in every way. Terrific. And Cole perhaps wasn't as he wasn't as good as Kieran. He wasn't as good as Liam, but he wanted it. And he tried so bloody hard. Coaches played him up front. Coaches played him at the back. We sent him to Milton Keynes when they had that terrible year and nobody was getting paid. He could have come back to us. He stuck it out. When COVID struck, he was the first British player I knew that found himself. Never went to us to find a job. He found himself somewhere to go and play in Sweden. He wanted it. And I tip my hat, because I do say a lot of the younger British players coming through haven't got that screw you attitude, haven't got that what it takes to get to that top level. Cole Shudra 1,000,000% had, and he tried everything, but he just didn't work for young Cole, which was a crying shame.
Well, but he ripped that league a new one this year.
Say again?
Cole had like 107 points. He ripped it a new one this year.
Yeah, so brilliant, which is brilliant. And nobody was more pleased. Nobody was more. And everybody in Sheffield, if you speak to the ownership, the coaches, the players, the fans, and you say the name Cole Shudra, say, good kid, great kid, top lad. Do anything you want. Polite, help Andy with the bags. Do whatever you wanted him to do, he would do it. You couldn't meet a better kid than him. And I would imagine his girlfriend's parents must be thrilled.
Yeah, he's a good lad,
that their daughter has found a bloke like him, because he's a top lad.
You boys have signed Brandon Whistle. Obviously, we've had Brandon on the show a couple of times. Great lad, but he came to Sheffield. Didn't quite go the way he expected. He went down to Telford, went across to Leeds, came back to Sheffield this year, and boy, did he perform well. And got called up to the national team. Sadly, injury put pay to that. Yeah. Are we likely to see the likes of Shudra and Brown do something similar, whether it be with Sheffield or with someone else?
Wouldn't that be lovely?
That would be great.
Wouldn't that be lovely? And the clubs, this myth, that the Elite League clubs don't want indigenous proper British players is just that. It's a myth. Think about it. Why would a club want to fly a Canadian in, house a Canadian, pay all the visa costs for a Canadian? Why would they want to do that when they could get little Johnny from down in Rotherham? There must be a reason. Think about it. There must be a reason. And unfortunately, one of the biggest reasons is there isn't a little Johnny down in Rotherham. Yeah. And you couldn't. I mean, Leeds are in the fortunate position. They're having a terrific time at the moment. They're selling the building out. They've obviously got a bob or two. They can pay their players well. Good luck to them. All strength to them to do that. But until my own view, this is just my view now, I've gone off tangent, until the mother club owns the second club and also owns the third club, you are not going to get that development where in that NIHL. So if I went and my 6 numbers come up tomorrow and I went and bought the Solihull Barons and put them in the NIHL, I'd want to win. So I'd be trying to get the best players. And then I'd be signing 40-year-old blokes. I'd be signing Jono. I'd be, Weaver played to whatever age, Huey. Or you'd be signing guys like that. The young lad from Coventry that's just gone to Milton Keynes. Venus. You'd be doing that. But the reality is that ain't helping development. But if I owned the Birmingham Bulldogs playing out of the NEC in front of 6,000 people, and then I owned the Solihull Barons playing out of Solihull Ishrink, it wouldn't matter to me if Solihull Barons won, lost, or whatever, but I got the best kids developing. And if they were being beat some nights badly, c'est la vie, but they were developing. And then
take them up to the big club when you need them.
Exactly. I only see it working that way, and I don't know how many clubs could actually do that. But nobody would be happier for me. I'd be a very happy man if one day I go, and for the Sheffield Steelers wearing number whatever, welcome home, Kieran Brown. I'd love that. Hey, and if it was Cole Shudra, I'd love it even more. No disrespect, Kieran, because obviously I got the relationship with his mum and dad for so long. It would be great for Cole to do it, or one of the other Shudras maybe. There's a couple coming. There's a whole trail of them coming.
Yeah, I know, and he started making his way into the National League. We've kept you quite a while here, but so I wanted to just touch on a couple of final points. Obviously, we haven't got into the import numbers yet, but it looks like it's going to be 15. Is that a good move? I've kind of played devil's advocate on this. We were
happy if it was going to come down to 13. We were happy at 14. We were happy at 15. It doesn't really affect a club like ours. If you're just looking at the Sheffield,
who does it affect the most then, Simsy? Is it easier for, say, and I'm just going to pull these names, let's say Dundee, Manchester play. Is it easier for them to say sign a 15th import than it is a 7th Brit financially?
Yeah.
Because you could just go out and sign another Brit and chuck, I don't know how much it costs. You could do that.
Exactly right. I can fully understand where the clubs that really wanted the 15 are coming from. When they were making their argument, I could fully understand it. As a very patriotic Brexit British Englishman, you do feel it's the wrong thing to do. But actually, for the business of the clubs and for the business of the league, it was the right thing to do. And there's still enough room for kids to come through. If Graham's good enough, Graham makes it.
Yeah.
If Brown's good enough, Brown makes it.
Yeah. I've said this, mate. If they're good enough, there's a way.
Young lad from Milton Keynes just gone to Belfast.
Surely Norris, good player.
So hey, get your head down, son, work hard, and you'll make it. Yeah.
The extra import for me, I don't mind it. I get it. I think obviously let's just run it down. So we lost Jono. Tetlo's in Europe. Ollie Bettridge in Europe. Pelini's in Europe.
Bettridge and Tetlo will both come back to Nottingham.
They might do, yeah. But the point is, guys are now like looking outside. And that's an extra Brit spot. You don't just replace replace these guys that you like we touched on. You can't replace Jono.
More power for those guys testing themselves overseas. And the two you just mentioned, fair play to them, they stuck it out the whole season, where in the past guys have come home halfway through the year, but they stuck it out, and you have to tip your hat to them for doing that.
It can be hard. We spoke to Dowdy about it here. Obviously, he was in the COVID year, so it's even worse. But there's a lot of time away from your family and away from your kids, and all these types of things. That I know Tetlow and Bettridge don't have kids, but some of the senior Brits will have kids, and to take those moves, it takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of balls.
And everybody's very happy to blame everybody else. Like we're the easy target, the Elite League easy target. And, at the Elite League level, we're saying, well, where are these kids coming from? And you look down to the league below, and we blame the league below. We say, well, there's no kids coming through that league because they're full of older guys and different guys there. And then they're saying, well, actually, there's no 16, 18-year-olds coming up who want to commit to us. So everybody's got somebody else to blame. So until there's a joining of the dots, it's going to continue as the way it is.
Well, one more final.
Which isn't what
Sorry.
either of us want to see, and we
No.
want to see down the line. No.
One thing
Can I tell you a quick story? Can I tell you a quick story?
Love a story.
I forget when I knew what was coming on here, and we did this at an hour's notice. I text Tomo for the club's name because I can never remember the club, and he hasn't come back to me. Paul and I had a very good friend called Gunnar Svensson, and he was the youngest ever coach in the SHL in Malmo. He became a manager, then he became an agent. He was the agent for some of the huge Swedes that played in Detroit around the world, and he was a very, very well-connected man. And for some reason, he liked these two scraggy-arse Brits that he found in Solihull many, many years ago. And he became a very good friend of ours. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. But a couple of times a year, Paul and I would go to Sweden and we'd visit clubs. And Gunnar had set everything up. He'd drive us around himself and we'd visit these clubs. And of course, Paul would soak up all the information off the coaches. That wasn't what I was there for. Me, I'd be looking to see what the clubs were doing to sell, to attract tickets. And I was soaking information up from other ways. And we walked into this one rink one day and it was a corridor. And imagine a corridor, and you can see one door facing you right at the end of the corridor, and you can see half a dozen doors on your left-hand side. And this guy was so proud of this corridor, and I'm thinking, what the fuck are you proud of the corridor? Let's get to the rink. Let me see the rink. And he goes, no, but this is the pathway. This door here on the left is where all the under-10s change. The next door is where the 12s have their stores. Next day is the 14s, the 16s, the 18s, the 20s. And that door that faces you, that's the SHL team. That's Lexington or somebody like that. That's the SHL. He says, so every time a 10-year-old walks in, he looks up and he can see the pathway it takes to get to the big dressing room where the big players are. And it's funny. That's just stayed with me forever. That's the proper pathway that the 10-year-old has got to know how to get to the SHL team, or that scraggy-ass little kid from Doncaster or Rotherham or Barnsley or Sheffield has got to know what's my pathway to become a Sheffield Steeler or a Leeds Knight or whoever you determine you want to come. As long as it's not a Nottingham Panther, it's okay.
It's not a Nottingham Panther. The final thing I wanted to touch on is obviously Great Britain. We've just been promoted back to the top table. Obviously, you've got good relationships with a lot of those boys. How proud are you of those fellas that they went out and got the job done?
Unbelievable. And certainly for Jono, but also, and then you look at your own boys. I know how much it means today. If you knew the injuries that Dowdy's been taken into that tournament and what he played with us for the last month, I'm surprised he could walk, let alone play. Obviously for Jono, broke his wrist 2 games before. I was pleased for Sam, disappointed for Brandon. But then all of them, Bouncy, what a tournament Ben had.
Unbelievable.
They all did. There's a few too many Canadians in it for me, but I can see why it's there. As I say, Brexit.
What would be your magic? What would be your magic number then?
0. But I know.
I agree.
I'm over nationalistic. I'm a pro Brit, Brexit voting, by British type bloke, and I can understand why the Evan Moses, the old Brendan Connolly's. I can understand why, Ben Lake. I can understand why those players are there. And as long as they buy in and commit, but as long as we just don't have a whole team of them.
I wouldn't like to see go back to the early 90s where there's fucking 18 imports and 2 Brits, like Tony Hannon, 18 imports and Tony and Lobby,
Yeah, and watching Britain play Canada, and Rick Ferris stood on the blue line when the Canadian national anthem, and he's got his hand on his heart. What's going on there?
By the way, you talk about strange cats. I played with Ferrer when I was 14. He's up there with the strangest cats of them all.
Did you see? Oh, we had his brother. We had Rick Ferrer, and then we had Frank Ferrer, who was the coach. Oh, weird couple of guys. God knows whatever happens. You find players from the past, don't you, on Facebook or something now, but the Ferrers disappeared. It's like they never existed.
I reckon they're living in the woods.
And listen, if I was the general manager of Great Britain, I fully understand why you have the dual nationals. And you're trying to get, because they're interested in the Spondoodles, and the only way you get the Spondoodles is by being in Pool A. So they will. But I do think as well, those players need to be a bit better treated, certainly in their other tournaments that they do. I mean, they just turn up and play nowadays, and there has to be a responsibility for the governing body to those individuals.
Well, I know how much the boys got paid.
You're getting all this kudos off those lads right now. The incredible work that Andy Buxton does a terrific job there making them like that. The coaching staff there, fair play to them. But yeah, there's some stories there that are just horrible stories that they need to be better, not so much even better paid, just better treated. Yes, better paid would be very nice. Of course it would, but just making sure that everything was in order. We touched on, insurances and different things earlier, making sure that everybody's just looked after right. And if you're in Pool A, there's enough money to do that. Yeah. And I understand that if you're not in Pool A, there's not enough money to do that, and you've got to rob Peter to pay Paul and to do all those other things. And it looks like a beautiful swan on top of the water, but underneath the water, there's a lot of kicking and splashing around that's going on there.
Do you think, obviously we talk about webcasts and the finances they make. Do you think GB dropped a bollock by not having those 4 friendly games on like YouTube or a free-to-air platform, because it would have then led into more people getting involved and supporting the national team? Because I know a lot of hockey fans, I would probably say 85% of hockey fans I know couldn't give a toss about the national team. And we need to do something to change that.
I think that's changing. Well, like I had 4 years with the national team when Tomo was coach, and I did the media for them. And the very first year we went, we were invited to the GB Supporters Club dinner. And we were one of us was put on a different table. And the table I was on, there wasn't one single fan that watched one single club game. They only went with GB. And back in those days, 15 years ago, I think the vast majority of people, it was their holiday. We're going to Slovenia this year. We're going to Belarus.
I still know people who do that, yeah.
Yeah. Where I do think now you find that the vast majority of people that will go to Czech, next year, they'll be not just elite league fans, but they'll be hockey fans there. I don't know about free to air, putting it on free to air YouTube, because I think people wouldn't go, and every penny that comes into, I'm sure Andy French and Andy Buxton have got to top the bills up at the end of the day and make it pay. And with all those people in the NIC in Nottingham, I'm sure there wasn't vast profits there, because it's a hell of a tournament to put on and pay for.
Oh, no, absolutely. I understand they've got to make the bills pay. But we go back to the short-sightedness.
Or maybe next year in a Pool A, they're getting a bigger fee coming in to start off with. So maybe they could do something like that because they're starting in a better position. But, yeah, I can understand why they didn't do that.
No, but yeah. Right, Simsy, this has been awesome. I look forward to the next time that we do this. Okay. Guys and girls that are watching along, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. If you are coming back, well, thanks for coming back. Don't forget, Saturday the 5th of August, our next charity game down in Slough. Tickets are available at ticketlab.co.uk/4,000 and count, and buy your tickets now. We're going to support a couple of fantastic charities. Simsy, legend, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Everyone else, guys, peace. Thank you.